Good afternoon, and thank you again for joining me. Today's January 14th. My name is Greg Helmick, the Regional Emergency Coordinator for the state of Vermont. About 400,000 households need to be reconnected to power due to the destruction of hundreds of electric transformers and thousands of miles power lines that are down. Approximately 60,000 of those households are in Burlington and Chittenden counties alone. Miles of roads, streets, and highways still need to be cleared of ice. Trees and fallen power lines are obstructing roads and rail systems. Air traffic is not completely restored in Burlington Airport, and there has not been a complete restoration of ferry travel to New York State and neighboring islands. Air traffic is not. Many of citizens without electricity are facing situations including hypothermia and carbon monoxide intoxication. 36 people residing in Burlington and Chittenden have been admitted to the hospital for severe injuries, and 12 of those people are reported dead in relation to the current weather-related events. Cash is not flowing in the disaster area. Most residents in Vermont are currently without jobs due to power outages. Most of the residents in Burlington and Chittenden do not have access to money and cannot pay cash for basic necessities. Relief is widespread and not targeted. Volunteers are getting tired due to the long hours. Commodities provided by relief do not address the immediate needs of the population of power, gasoline, blankets, heating systems, ice, salt, and canned food. In addition, these resources and relief commodities are having difficulty in reaching some of the disaster areas due to the condition of the roads. Citizens are complaining about prostitution, drug dealing, and continuing acts of violence in shelters. Complaints are also being reported regarding fraud from so-called contractors taking money but not providing services like de-icing and tree trimming that were paid for. Private industry are expected to lose service jobs. Citizens may face unemployment due to financial loss of the businesses where they work. A large number of the private sector employees have been fired because they are unable to go to work. Financial losses, millions of dollars has been lost in the private sector. The effect will be greatest on banking, energy, retailing, and services. Government agencies' budgets are blown in order to mitigate the impact of the storm. Many families are having to pay hundreds of dollars on home repairs. Power lines need to be rebuilt according to new standards that can resist unusual ice accumulation. Schools, shopping malls, and communication infrastructures need to be addressed for any damages and possibility rebuilt. Large numbers of residential areas need serious repairs. Department of Transportation trucks will also need repairs or replacements due to the heavy work accomplished during the ice storm. The destruction of thousands of trees has been significantly damaged to Vermont. Forests, the maple syrup and apple farms are severely affected by the damage left by the ice storm. Wildlife is also expected to suffer due to the depletion of food. Public workers and volunteers may suffer from fatigue and stress. Citizens may experience long-term psychological stress due to the long duration of the disaster. The next winter may include PTSD affecting victims that have had severe exposure to the current disaster. 535,000 plus insurance claims were filed after the storm, totaling approximately $790 million in damages to homes, cars, and other property. Economic output is expected to decline by 1.5% over the next year, representing millions of dollars. Changes in the electric power and construction industries will account for 1/3 of a drop of the regional economy. Electric power systems alone dropped 14.2% during the month of the disaster. Overall, the goods producing disasters are expected to fall 2.4%. Milk farms as well as the maple and apple industry will be severely affected by the impact of the storm. So mitigation. Crews are cleaning the roads. From this point on, private industry will not be paid until the work is completed. For large companies, they may be paid 50% in advance of the work. Power is being disconnected to the down power lines to also help those efforts of clearing the lines and the trees. Equipment and materials being brought in from Canada and New York. Additional trucks for taking care of the down power lines and trees are en route. Crews are being doubled to clear the roads and to help rebuild the new standard, with support coming from the National Guard in New York. Primary efforts are rebuilding and getting residents connected to the grid. The rail system is coming back online, and trucks are clearing the tracks. Airports are being cleared, the runways, and Port Authority is clearing the ice to get the ferries running. Fire departments are checking with houses to ensure safe heating, and hospitals are set up to handle cold and carbon dioxide injuries. Banks are open, and municipalities are working with the banks to help the flow of cash to businesses. Emergency relief funds are being provided to local businesses to help get the economy stimulated. The funds are working. City officials should meet with small businesses and discuss options to retain employees unable to report to work due to the conditions of the road. Additional volunteer workers are coming from New York. The American Red Cross is organizing efforts and resources to consolidate efforts. The focus is on power, gasoline, blankets, heating systems, ice, salt, and canned food. Due to some of the roads, the resources are being dropped into city centers and shelters. Target is helping by providing some of those resources. Law enforcement is increasing their efforts at shelters and detaining individuals accused for prostitution and selling drugs. FEMA is working with insurance companies to provide care and services. Home Depot is giving Vermont heaters, hot water heaters, and other material. Engineers have been deployed to assess schools and malls. Vermont Fish and Wildlife are addressing issues in the forest as well as the wildlife. Farmers are working with FEMA scientists to address maple and apple tree freezing. Vermont Social Services and New York Social Services are providing care at shelters and city centers for psychological issues. We understand residents may suffer from PTSD. The National Veterans Administration is also providing care since they specialize in PTSD. Vermont government officials and FEMA are working to create a strategic plan for long-term economic problems. So it's going to cover three areas. The short-term objective for this plan focused on providing support to residents and businesses. Things like the safety of residents, roads, and transportation sector, power, law and order, the economy, the agriculture of northern Vermont are primary concerns. Initial estimated cost for the short-term recovery efforts is $200 million. And again, that primarily focuses on resident safety. The tentative timeline for short-term goal is 6 days, so January 14th today through January 20th. The medium-term phase focuses on a continued assessment of the damage and continued efforts to restoring critical infrastructure. During the medium-term phase, most residents should return to their homes and 75% of the businesses should reopen. At this point in the recovery phase, the estimated cost is $990 million. The tentative timeline for medium-term goal is expected to last 4 weeks from January 21st. Long-term recovery involves more than debris removal and restoring power, which are short-term recovery actions. According to FEMA, long-term recovery refers to the need to reestablish a healthy, functioning community that will sustain itself over time. The focus in this plan is the economy, agriculture, wildlife, critical infrastructure, and an after-action review to really help sustain the residents in the area for the next storm. The total recovery costs could estimate about $1.6 billion. Planning for the long-term recovery phase begins during the short-term phase and will go until completed. Good luck and stay safe. If you have any questions, please let me know.